The Sinaloa Cartel's brazen intimidation campaign against the Clearwater Valley Dairy Farm sent shockwaves through the tight-knit agricultural community of northern New Mexico. What seemed like a ruthless land grab attempt was about to collide with an unexpected obstacle. 3 remarkably disciplined guard dogs, concealing years of elite military canine training, and their handler, Miguel Reyes, a quiet dairy manager hiding 15 years of specialized experience with Mexico's most elite canine tactical unit. With the region's most successful organic dairy operation hanging in the balance and the livelihood of dozens of families at stake, the extraordinary capabilities of these unassuming canines were about to resurface. Working alongside local sheriff, Deputy Ana Mendez, and his former commander, Captain Diego Herrera, Miguel would lead the most sophisticated counter-operation the valley had ever seen to prevent the cartel from establishing a foothold in this peaceful farming community. Through calculated defensive measures and intense tactical engagements, this is the story of how America's most lethal canine unit confronted one of the most ambitious criminal enterprises in the region, culminating in a showdown that would decide the fate of not just a single farm, but the entire valley's agricultural future. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The early morning mist blankets the rolling pastures of Clearwater Valley Dairy Farm as Miguel Reyes completes his first inspection of the day. His weathered hands move methodically among the milking equipment, checking for signs of tampering or damage. Behind him, 3 impressive dogs, a Belgian Malinois, a German Shepherd, and a Dutch Shepherd, maintain perfect formation, alert but calm. 15 years of specialized canine tactical operations have taught Miguel to trust his instincts, and something doesn't feel right. Sarah, how many deliveries scheduled for today? Miguel calls out to the farm's logistics manager, Sarah Wilson. Wipes condensation from her glasses, consulting her tablet. 3 regular pickups, but there's a last-minute request from a new distributor in Las Cruces. Miguel frowns. Last-minute deliveries need my direct approval. Who authorized it? Documentation came through the online portal. Everything looks legitimate. Miguel pulls out his phone, scrolling through notifications. No approval request. His jaw tightens. Hold that truck when it arrives. I want a complete verification. We're already running behind schedule, Sarah protests, gesturing toward the waiting milk tanks. Better late than compromised? Miguel's tone leaves no room for argument. The 3 dogs at his side shift subtly, responding to the tension in his voice. As the sun climbs higher, illuminating the expansive 500-acre operation, Miguel's radio crackles. Boss, you need to see this. North fence line. Inside his utility vehicle, Miguel and his 3 dogs race toward the northern boundary of the property. The Belgian Malinois, Vega, sits perfectly poised in the passenger seat, while the German Shepherd, Sentinel, and Dutch Shepherd, Kodiak, maintain their positions in the back. These aren't ordinary farm dogs. Their disciplined bearing reveals professional training to the experienced eye. At the fence line, Miguel discovers Carlos, one of his youngest farmhands, nervously pacing beside his truck. What happened? Miguel asks, surveying the scene. Carlos points to the fence post. Found this when I was checking the irrigation lines. A small, professional-looking device is attached to the metal post. Miguel recognizes it immediately. A cellular trail camera, military grade. Someone is conducting surveillance on the farm's operations. When did you notice this? Just now, but boss, there's something else. Carlos hesitates. 2 men came by yesterday while you were in town. Said they represented a land development company. Wanted to know about our water rights, property boundaries. Asked a lot of questions about you specifically. Miguel's expression darkens. What did they look like? Expensive clothes, city types. But their hands... Carlos pauses. They had fighters' hands, calloused. And one had a tattoo here, he points. To his neck, a scorpion. Miguel recognizes the description immediately. His dogs sense the change in his demeanor, their posture subtly shifting to alert status. Get me Deputy Mendez at the Sheriff's Department, Miguel instructs Sarah through his radio. Tell her it's about the Sinaloa activity we discussed. Within an hour, Deputy Ana Mendez arrives. Her Sheriff's Department SUV kicking up dust as it approaches. Her official uniform is a stark contrast to Miguel's practical work clothes. They have history, both professional and personal, that the others on the farm don't fully understand. You're sure about this? She asks, examining the surveillance device. Military-grade equipment, professional installation. Someone with training placed this, Miguel explains, his voice lowered. And the men who came asking questions, Sinaloa enforcers, without a doubt. Ina's expression darkens. We've been tracking increased cartel movement in the county. They're pushing north aggressively, buying up properties, intimidating landowners. But this is different. They're not just looking for another property. Miguel observes. They're specifically targeting Clearwater. A security alert blares across Miguel's phone. Multiple motion sensors triggered along the eastern property line. It's starting, Miguel mutters. Anna's phone buzzes with rapid alerts. Reports of unmarked vehicles at county roads 22 and 36. Multiple men armed. They're establishing positions around the valley. Miguel's mind races through tactical scenarios, muscle memory from over a decade of operations kicking in. They're not just hitting us here. This is coordinated. How can you be sure? Because it's what I would do. Miguel moves toward his office in the main barn. We need to contact Diego Herrera. The former federal police commander? Ana follows quickly. Why him? Because this isn't just a cartel intimidation anymore. This is a military-grade tactical operation, and we're going to need the best to stop it. Inside his modest office, Miguel locks the door behind them. The 3 dogs position themselves strategically, Vega by the window, Sentinel at the door, and Kodiak between them and Miguel. Their positioning isn't random, it's a security formation. As if on cue, the radio reports of a confrontation at the Eastern Access Road. 2 unmarked SUVs have parked at the farm's delivery entrance, blocking access. Men in tactical clothing are preventing the milk truck from leaving. They're not trying to destroy the farm, Miguel explains, pulling up security camera feeds on his computer. They're trying to control it. Through the cameras, they watch as black SUVs emerge from various positions around the property perimeter. Men in tactical gear deploy with military precision. Their leader steps out, Alejandro Vega, a rising lieutenant in the Sinaloa organization. This isn't just about intimidation anymore, is it? Ana realizes. No, Miguel confirms, reaching for a hidden safe beneath his desk. This is about control. They're trying to establish a foothold in the entire valley. The safe opens to reveal a satellite phone, one that hasn't been used in years. Miguel punches in a number from memory. Herrera, it's Reyes. Remember that contingency we discussed for Clearwater Valley? It's happening, and I'm going to need the team. As Miguel speaks, Anna's tablet lights up with alerts from across the county. Similar intimidation attempts at other farms and ranches. "This is just the beginning," she whispers. "How long until backup arrives?" Anna asks as Miguel ends the call. "That depends." Miguel checks his watch before turning to his 3 dogs, who are now fully alert, on whether any of our old team is still in working condition. He reaches into the safe again and removes 3 small packages, unwrapping them, to reveal specialized tactical vests designed for working dogs. At the sight of the equipment, the 3 dogs' demeanor transforms subtly, their posture straightening, their focus sharpening. These aren't just farm guard dogs. And if they're not, Anna asks, watching the transformation in the animals. Miguel's expression hardens as he watches Vega's men establishing positions around the farm's main entrance through the security cameras. Then we're about to give Sinaloa a very expensive lesson in picking the wrong target. In the distance, the sounds of vehicles and shouting can be heard as more cartel members arrive. The first moves in a chess game that will determine the fate of the entire agricultural valley. But for Miguel Reyes, it's more than that. It's a callback to a life he thought he'd left behind, a life where he and his canine partners were among the most effective tactical operators in Mexico's specialized forces. The day is just beginning, and the true scale of Sinaloa's ambition is yet to be revealed. But they're about to learn a crucial lesson. Some quiet farmers are quiet for a very good reason, and some guard dogs are far more than they appear. Miguel's utility vehicle weaves through the back roads of Clearwater Valley, avoiding the main highways where cartel spotters would be watching. Anna checks her tablet, monitoring police frequencies. 3 more farms just reported armed men at their property lines, she reports. They're moving faster than we anticipated. They've been planning this for months, Miguel responds, taking a sharp turn onto a gravel road. That's surveillance. Equipment wasn't their first move. His 3 dogs sit perfectly positioned in the vehicle. Vega in the passenger footwell, Sentinel and Kodiak in the back, each wearing their tactical vests now. Despite the rough terrain, they maintain perfect balance, their training evident in every controlled movement. Miguel's phone buzzes. It's Sarah from the farm. He puts it on speaker. "Miguel, there's a lot of activity at the county hospital." Sarah's voice is tense but controlled. "My sister works in the ER, says they've been told to prepare for multiple trauma cases. Someone's expecting casualties. They're clearing medical resources," Miguel explains to Anna. "Standard cartel protocol before a major territorial expansion." "Your farm manager has access to hospital information?" Former combat nurse. She recognizes the patterns. They pull up to a seemingly abandoned ranch house 10 miles outside of town. The weathered for sale sign has been there for years, but Miguel knows it's just a cover. Anna spots at least 3 concealed security cameras. "You sure about this place?" Herrera never lost his paranoia or his preparation. Inside, Diego Herrera has already set up a makeshift command center. Maps cover 1 wall showing property boundaries across the valley. Red markers indicate farms already reporting cartel presence. "Took you long enough," Herrera greets them, his attention on satellite feeds displayed on a laptop. Though in his 50s, his military bearing remains unmistakable. The 3 dogs enter in perfect formation, immediately taking defensive positions around the room. Herrera nods in appreciation. "Your old team still looks sharp," he comments. "The others are assembling, those who can still operate." "How many?" Miguel asks. 5 confirmed handlers with 7 dogs. 3 maybes," Herrera points to the map. But we've got bigger problems. Sinaloa isn't just targeting your farm. Look at these patterns. Ana steps forward, her analyst's eye catching what others might. Miss, they're positioning around water sources, major roads, processing facilities. Infrastructure control, Miguel realizes. Control the farms, you control food production. Control the roads, you control distribution. Control the water, you control everything, Herrera finishes. Your contact at the state police arrived 10 minutes ago. He's reviewing intelligence in the back room. Lieutenant James Parker replays surveillance footage on multiple screens. He nods to Ana as they enter. This isn't just regular cartel muscle. Parker points to the tactical formations visible in drone footage. These are trained operators, ex-military, maybe even active deserters from special forces. Alejandro Vega's been recruiting, Ana adds. Intelligence showed him meeting with former military instructors in Texas and Arizona. Miguel studies the footage. Those entry tactics, those formations, that's specialized training. The three dogs react to Miguel's tone, their posture shifting subtly, ready for commands. A secure phone line chirps. Herrera answers, his expression darkening. We've got a new problem, he announces. State police just ordered all units to stand down from farm disturbances, citing jurisdictional conflicts. They're compromised, Ana realizes. Worse, Miguel corrects. They're afraid. Vega's been demonstrating what happens to agencies that don't cooperate. Parker pulls up a newsfeed. A sheriff's station in a neighboring county burned to the ground. A local police chief's family threatened. A state trooper found dead in his vehicle. We can't trust normal channels, Herrera concludes. Not until we know how deep their influence runs. Miguel's phone vibrates. A text from Sarah. 3 cartel members just brought into ER. One talking. Says Vega planning something at the main processing plant at 3 a.m. We've got a window, Miguel shows them the message. But we need more intel. I've got someone, Ana offers. Marco Vasquez, DEA undercover. He's been working Sinaloa middle management for months. If Vega's organization is making moves, he'll know. Can he be pulled out? Herrera asks. Not without burning months of infiltration. We don't pull him out, Miguel decides. We use him to feed disinformation, make Vega suspicious of his own people. A proximity alarm sounds. Surveillance shows 3 SUVs approaching on the dirt road leading to the ranch house. Cartel's scout team, Parker identifies, looking at their formation. Ana, take the intel and head out the back, Miguel orders. Link up with Vasquez. Herrera, and I will handle this. Handle it how? Ana asks, concerned. Miguel glances at his 3 dogs, who are already alert to the change in tension. By giving them exactly what they expect to find, an abandoned ranch house with some local hunters. Herrera grins, already removing his tactical gear. Just like Sonora. Let's hope it works better this time, Miguel mutters, as Ana slips out the back door. Miguel and Herrera quickly transform the command center. Maps disappear into hidden panels. Computers fold into specially designed containers that look like old appliances. The dogs, responding to subtle hand signals from Miguel, change their bearing, from alert tactical posture to relaxed farm dogs. The SUVs stop outside. 8 armed men emerge, moving with military precision. Remember, Miguel whispers, messing up his clothes and grabbing a beer from a cooler. We're just local ranchers who found an empty house. He gives a nearly imperceptible hand signal to the dogs. Immediately, they transform their behavior. Vega sprawls on the floor, tongue lolling. Sentinel curls up as if napping. Kodiak adopts a friendly, goofy demeanor. The door bursts open. Flashlights sweep the darkness. They find Miguel and Herrera, slumped against a wall sharing beers. "Private property," the lead gunman announces in accented English. "Since when?" Herrera slurs convincingly. "We've been staying here 3 days. Place was empty." Miguel pretends to just notice their weapons. "Hey now, we don't want trouble. We're just ranchers who needed a place to crash during hunting season." The gunman studies them suspiciously. His radio crackles with Spanish instructions. "Clear. Out now, this area is off limits." Sure. Miguel stumbles to his feet. "We'll find somewhere else. Come on, Diego. Boys, come on," he calls to the dogs, who perform perfectly, acting like ordinary, somewhat poorly trained farm dogs. They shuffle out, playing their roles perfectly. The cartel team continues searching the ranch house. In the darkness, Miguel and Herrera split up, each taking up an observation position. The dogs silently position themselves around them, reverting to their trained behavior once out of sight. They're placing surveillance equipment, Herrera whispers into his concealed radio. "Good," Miguel responds. "Let them think they found what they're looking for, a simple abandoned ranch house." "Ana's clear," Parker confirms through the radio. "Meeting Vasquez in 20 minutes. Miguel watches the cartel team finish their sweep. Everything's going according to plan, but something bothers him. That lead guy, he radios to Herrera. "The way he moved, did he seem familiar?" "Yeah." Herrera's voice is grim. "Because he was one of ours, federal police tactical team about 5 years ago." Vega is not just recruiting street muscle. The implications sink in. They're not just fighting cartel enforcers, they're going up against tactically trained operators who know all their methods. The day just got a lot more complicated. Miguel signals to Vega, his Malinois. The dog moves silently through the underbrush, approaching one of the parked SUVs. With subtle hand commands, Miguel directs the dog to inspect the vehicle without being detected. Vega's training allows him to pick up scents and return with intelligence that no human could gather. When the dog returns, Miguel examines something caught in his specialized vest. A small fabric patch that had fallen inside the vehicle. The insignia confirms his worst fears. These aren't just corrupted police, but former special operations personnel. "We've got foreign trainers involved," Miguel whispers to Herrera. "Colombian by the look of this patch." Herrera's expression darkens. "That explains the level of coordination we're seeing. This isn't just a land grab, it's a full tactical operation." As the cartel team finally departs, Miguel gathers his dogs close. "Good work," he murmurs, rewarding each with a subtle touch. The signal of approval they've been trained to value more than treats or verbal praise. Parker emerges from his hidden position once the SUVs are gone. "Your dogs are incredible. I've worked with K9 units for years, but I've never seen anything like this." "That's because they're not ordinary police dogs," Herrera explains. "Miguel's unit was something special, something most people don't even know existed." Miguel checks his secure phone. "Ana's made contact with Vasquez. We need to regroup and prepare for tonight." "You think they'll move on the processing plant?" Parker asks. "No," Miguel responds, studying the valley map they've now restored to the wall. "That's just one piece. They're planning something bigger. The processing plant is valuable, but it's not their real target." "Then what is?" Miguel points to the reservoir that feeds the entire valley's irrigation system. "Control the water, control everything." Classic cartel strategy, but executed with military precision. He turns to his 3 dogs, who sit attentively awaiting commands. "And we're going to need every advantage to stop them." Herrera watches as Miguel begins preparing specialized equipment for the dogs. Night vision mounts for their tactical vests, specialized communication devices, scent markers. You really think 3 dogs can make a difference against a cartel? Battalion? Parker asks skeptically. Miguel exchanges a knowing look with Herrera. These aren't just any dogs, Lieutenant. In my former unit, we had a saying, what 100 men can't find, 3 dogs can. And what 100 men can't stop. He doesn't finish the sentence as he checks Sentinel's tactical vest, adjusting the specialized reinforced material that can stop most small caliber rounds. You never told me exactly what your unit did, Parker presses. And he never will, Herrera interjects. But I can tell you this, there's a reason the Sinaloa Cartel put a $2 million bounty on the head of a handler and his dogs 5 years ago. There's a reason Miguel and his team had to disappear, change their identities. And there's a reason, Miguel adds quietly, why Alejandro Vega might recognize these dogs if he gets a good look at them. His brother was a target in our last operation before we came to the US. Parker's eyes widen with understanding. You're not just hiding from the cartels because you're a former cop. Your dogs took down Vega's brother. Not just his brother. Herrera says grimly, his entire operation in Sonora State, 37 cartel members captured or killed in a single night. Most never even saw what hit them. Miguel's phone buzzes with an encrypted message from Ana. Vasquez confirms they're moving tonight. Multiple targets, coordinated strikes. He's sending details now. As Miguel reviews the intelligence, his expression becomes even more serious. They're not just after the valley's farms. They're installing their own people in the processing plants, the distribution networks, the water authority. Total infrastructure control, Herrera concludes, and they've got someone inside the sheriff's department, Miguel adds. That's how they're coordinating so effectively. Parker checks his weapon. What's our move? Miguel looks at his 3 dogs, who sense the coming operation and have shifted into a state of alert readiness that transforms their entire bearing. These are not the same animals that acted as friendly farm dogs just an hour ago. Now they embody years of elite tactical training. Their focus absolute, their discipline perfect. We do what we do best, Miguel says. We let the darkness work for us. As the sun begins to set over Clearwater Valley, the team prepares for what will be a long night. The cartel believes they have the advantage of numbers, weapons, and strategic positioning. What they don't know is that 3 specialized dogs and their handler have already begun turning those advantages against them. And in the gathering darkness, Miguel gives his dogs their first operational command of the night, a simple hand gesture that sends Vega slipping silently into the underbrush, beginning the complex counter-surveillance operation that will give them the intelligence they need. The cartel has no idea what's hunting them in the shadows. Ana parks her unmarked cruiser behind a busy truck stop, exactly 3 spaces from the diesel pumps. The location for meeting Marco Vasquez is far from ideal, but his message was clear. His handlers are being watched. A battered pickup truck pulls up 2 spaces over. Marco steps out dressed in work clothes, looking like any other farmhand in the valley. Your cover still intact? Ana asks as they both pretend to check their phones. Barely, Marco keeps his voice low. Vega's paranoid, executing anyone he suspects of disloyalty, but I've got something big. How big? They're not just taking over farms. They've got detailed plans for every major infrastructure point in the valley. Water rights, Processing facilities, distribution networks, transportation hubs. Anna maintains her casual posture despite the revelation. Source? Vega's personal computer. I got 2 minutes access while fixing his vehicle. That's why I had to meet in person. Can't risk digital transfer. Marco slides a small SD card behind his clipboard. Inna takes it with practiced smoothness. There's more, he continues. Vega's got people inside the sheriff's department, local police, even some federal agencies. But it's not just bribes. He's got leverage on them. Personal stuff, family details. How's he getting that kind of intel? That's the thing that scared me enough to risk this meeting. He's got someone high up. Military intelligence, maybe even DEA. The intel is too good, too specific. A black SUV cruises past the truck stop, moving suspiciously slow. Time's up. Marco straightens his jacket. One more thing. Watch for a guy named Raul Ortega, ex-Mexican Special Forces. He's playing both sides. Ana returns to the abandoned ranch house through a series of complicated routes, ensuring no tails. Inside, Elena Herrera is already setting up an analysis station, multiple monitors displaying data patterns. Dad said you'd have something for me to dig into. Elena doesn't look up from her screens. Her intelligence analysis skills had earned her a reputation even before joining the operation. Inna hands over the SD card. Vasquez came through, but we need to verify everything. Could be contaminated intel. Already running comparison algorithms against known Sinaloa patterns, Elena begins extracting the data. Give me an hour. Miguel signals his team, 4 former handlers with their specialized canine partners, each moving with precision that speaks of years of training. Age hasn't slowed their efficiency. Remember, Miguel cautions, we're dealing with cartel operators who've been trained in anti-canine tactics. They know our standard protocols. Then let's write some new ones. Herrera responds with a grim smile. Sarah's voice comes through their secured channel. Miguel, hospital update. They're moving in more trauma specialists. Whatever Vega's planning, it's happening soon. Copy that. Stay safe. Miguel turns to his team. Farm infiltration in 5. Herrera, your team set? Ready for diversion on your mark. The plan is elegantly simple. Herrera's team will trigger perimeter alarms at the western boundary of the cartel's staging area, exactly where they're expected. Meanwhile, Miguel's team with their dogs will enter through the eastern approach, using the diverted attention to their advantage. Lieutenant Parker leads them to a concealed entry point, hidden behind a row of abandoned farm equipment. Watch your backs, Parker warns. These guys aren't ordinary cartel soldiers. They move in silence, years of training evident in every step. The dogs maintain perfect formation, moving like shadows alongside their handlers. Elena's voice provides updates through their communications. First patrol passing your position. You're clear for the next 8 minutes. The team navigates through tall grass, Miguel leading with Vega at his side. The Belgian Malinois moves with focused intensity, a living sensor array, detecting dangers no human could perceive. They approach the edge of a large barn that Vega's men have converted into an operations center. Miguel signals his team into position near the rear entrance. Timing will be critical. Herrera, status, in position. Ready on your mark. Miguel checks his watch. Execute in 3, 2, 1. Explosions rock the western perimeter. Alarms blare. They hear shouts and running footsteps as men rush to respond. Now! The team moves swiftly, but it's the dogs who enter first. Trained to neutralize threats with minimal noise, they move like tactical missiles, taking down 2 guards before they can sound an alarm. The animal's precision is surgical, grabbing arms to immobilize rather than maul, applying controlled pressure to render targets unconscious. Elena, status on hostages. Heat signatures still clustered in main office. 2 guards inside, rest responding to the diversion. They move through the barn, encountering minimal resistance thanks to the dog's ability to detect threats before they materialize. Sentinel alerts to a hidden guard, neutralizing him before he can raise his weapon. Too easy, Miguel says quietly. We've got a problem. Herrera's voice is tense. These aren't regular Sinaloa soldiers. These are ex-special forces, multiple units. Acknowledged. Maintain diversion as long as possible. They reach the office. Miguel signals for positions. Through the door, they hear frightened voices, farm owners from nearby properties held against their will. On my mark, the door bursts open. Before the guards can react, Kodiak and Vega launch into action, disarming and immobilizing them with practiced efficiency. Inside, 5 local farmers huddle together, expressions shifting from fear to confused relief. We're here to help, Miguel announces calmly, but we need to move fast. A young woman points behind them. Watch out! The warning comes just in time. A hidden door opens, revealing Colonel Ramirez himself, flanked by armed men. Still good with those dogs, Reyes, Ramirez says calmly. But you're getting predictable in your old age. Why, Colonel? Why help them? Help them? I'm controlling them, Ramirez corrects. Vega thinks he's building his empire, but he's just another asset. Do you know what real power is, Reyes? It's not drugs or guns. It's controlling what people need: food, water, transportation. You're watching the privatization of an entire agricultural region. The cartels provide the muscle. I provide the strategy. And in the end, everything flows through my companies. Gunfire erupts from outside. Herrera's team, multiple hostiles. Fall back! Ramirez smiles. Your old team's good, Reyes, but I trained them too, remember? Miguel's mind races. Standard tactics are compromised. Ramirez knows them all. Elena, he sub-vocalizes into his comm. Kill the power, all of it. The barn plunges into darkness. Miguel's team moves with practiced precision, the dogs perfectly adapted to operate without light. Ramirez's men, despite their training, hesitate for a crucial second. Ana, status on extraction, vehicles in position on East Road, clear path to safety. The next minutes are controlled chaos. Miguel's team shepherds the farmers through dark corridors while the dogs engage Ramirez's forces. Every move is improvised, unpredictable. This changes nothing, Ramirez calls out. The operation's already in motion. By tomorrow morning, we'll control every major agricultural point from here to the state line. Wrong, Miguel responds, triggering. His backup charges on the barn's fuel tanks. The explosion rocks the structure. They emerge into the daylight, hostages in tow. Herrera's team provides cover fire as they load the vehicles. Reyes! Ramirez shouts from the barn doorway. You're fighting the inevitable! The vehicles speed away, leaving chaos behind. But Miguel knows Ramirez is right about one thing. This is just the beginning. Elena, what's the status on those farms? Multiple Sinaloa units mobilizing. They're not even trying to hide it now. Ana, what assets can we trust? Limited. Ramirez's influence runs deep, but I've got 3 sheriff units standing by. Clean. Miguel looks at the frightened farmers in his vehicle, then at his team, old warriors, ready for one more fight. His 3 dogs sit alert, sensing the tension, ready for whatever comes next. "Good," he says firmly, "because now we know who we're really fighting. And we're about to show Colonel Ramirez why our K9 unit had the highest success rate in tactical operations history." The vehicle speeds towards safety, but Miguel knows they're racing towards something bigger. The real war for the valley's agricultural future is just beginning. The noon sun beats down on the valley as Miguel's convoy delivers the rescued farmers to a secure location at the county fairgrounds. Anna's trusted deputies have already established a perimeter, but everyone knows they're working against time. 3 more farms under siege, Elena reports, surrounded by laptops running on backup batteries. Water access being cut off to the eastern properties. They're flexing their muscles. Miguel watches the rescued farmers being processed. Martin Weber, the oldest dairy farmer in the valley, hasn't stopped shaking. How's the hospital situation? 6 cartel soldiers admitted in the last hour, Sarah reports over the secure line. They're watching every exit. Medical staff intimidated. "Get her sister out of there," Miguel orders. "Can't. She's the only trauma surgeon on duty. Says if she leaves, patients die." Anna enters with Jason Torres, the county water commissioner. "We've got something." Jason found a pattern in Ramirez's permit applications. Torres pulls up documents on his tablet. Shell companies, all linked to water rights and land acquisition. He's been positioning for this for years. Irrigation companies, processing plants, transportation firms, building his kingdom piece by piece. What's his endgame? Miguel asks. "Total control of the valley's agricultural production," Torres explains. "These companies don't just service the farms. They're trying to own the entire infrastructure, water rights, processing centers, distribution networks." Elena's system pings. Incoming from Vasquez, Vega moving his main force to the water treatment facility. They're preparing for a major operation tonight. "What kind of operation?" Herrera asks. "Coordinated takeover. 3 teams targeting water controls, processing plants, and the irrigation hub." But the manifest he saw mentioned heavy equipment, industrial sabotage tools. Miguel's expression darkens. Ramirez isn't just trying to control the valley. He's preparing to cripple any farms that won't cooperate, make them dependent on his water supply. Anna's phone buzzes. Parker confirms it. County planning meetings last month. Major push to privatize water management. Ramirez's companies were top bidders. Outside, sirens wail as reports come in of confrontations at 3 more farms. The valley's starting to panic. "We need to move on the water treatment facility," Miguel decides. "Stop whatever they're planning." "With what?" Herrera challenges. "We're talking about a major cartel force with military-grade equipment. Even with the sheriff's deputies, we're outnumbered." "Then we change the numbers." Miguel turns to Vasquez, who's joined them via secure video. "Those other enforcers Vega's positioned around smaller farms, how many are actual Sinaloa and how many are hired muscle?" "Most are mercenaries. Local, criminals, border thugs. They fight for money, not loyalty. Elena, can you access Ramirez's financial records? Follow the payment chains." "Already on it." Her fingers fly across the keyboard. "Found it. Payments routed through shell companies. These guys are making serious money." Pull up Vasquez's intel on the guard rotations. Elena works her magic. Got them. Overlaying with financial data. Interesting. The highest paid teams are all positioned away from the water treatment facility because Ramirez doesn't trust them with the real objective, Miguel concludes. "Anna, Can your deputies handle a coordinated series of raids? Hit. Those smaller operations make it look like a major law enforcement response. They'll run, Vasquez predicts. These guys are opportunists. They see serious police presence, they'll cut their losses. Exactly. And when they do, Vega's forces get spread thin, Herrera finishes. He has to either hold the water facility or maintain control of his territory. Miguel nods. Meanwhile, we take a small team with the dogs through the treatment plant's service, tunnels. Vasquez's intel shows they haven't secured the maintenance areas because they're waiting for us to try a frontal approach, Ana realizes. After the barn rescue, they'll expect us to avoid enclosed spaces completely. Classic counter-intel. We use their knowledge of our methods against them. Eleanor's computer chirps. Update from Sarah. Cartel pulling guards from the hospital, redistributing forces. They're already stretching thin, Herrera observes. Hit them now, and their whole operation collapses. Jason, can you disrupt their water monitoring systems? Create some confusion about which controls are functioning? Better than that, he grins. I can make it look like the eastern sector is experiencing maintenance failures. They'll have to split their technical teams. Vasquez nods appreciatively. Vega will have to pull his forces back to maintain control of multiple sites simultaneously. Ana's phone buzzes again. Parker says state police finally responding. He's got clean units standing by to move once we give the signal. Miguel checks his watch. That takeover begins at nightfall. We need to be in position before then. He turns to Herrera. Get our team prepped. Light equipment, maximum mobility for the dogs. Ana, coordinate with your deputies. Vasquez, you're with me. We need details on every access point to that water facility. What about Ramirez? Elena asks. He'll be watching, probably already has an escape route planned. Miguel's expression hardens. But he's not our primary target. We stop this operation, disrupt his plan, his whole house of cards collapses. Without Vega's muscle, he's just another corrupt officer waiting to be investigated. The room erupts into coordinated activity. Maps are studied, equipment checked, communication synchronized. One more thing, Miguel addresses the group. Ramirez trained many of us. He knows how we think, how we operate. So we do this like we've never done it before. No standard tactics, no predictable moves. We improvise, we adapt, we overcome. Herrera smiles grimly. Just like the old days. With one difference, Miguel replies. This time, we're not fighting for some government objective. We're fighting for our homes, our livelihoods, our community. Outside, another report comes in of cartel intimidation at a small family farm. But in this room, determination burns bright. They've identified the true enemy, understood his plan, and found his weakness. Now it's time to remind everyone why Miguel's specialized K-9 unit was considered the most effective tactical force in Mexican law enforcement history. Miguel kneels beside his 3 dogs, checking their tactical vests one final time. Each animal watches him with complete focus, sensing the importance of the coming operation. These vests are heavier than their training gear, Ana observes as she checks her weapon. Kevlar reinforced, Miguel explains, can stop most pistol rounds and shotgun pellets. The material is special, allows full mobility while providing protection for vital areas. Herrera approaches with the latest satellite imagery of the water treatment facility. Thermal scans show 17 armed individuals at the main complex, 3 at each of the auxiliary stations. Miguel studies the images, then turns to his Malinois. Vega, he says quietly. Find me a way in. To Anna's surprise, he pulls out a small container and opens it for the dog to sniff. Inside is a piece of cloth. What's that? Fabric from Vega's personal vehicle, Miguel explains. These dogs aren't just trained for apprehension and protection, they're intelligence assets. Vega can track a specific human scent across miles of terrain, distinguish it from dozens of others. The Malinois takes several deep breaths of the scent, then looks up at Miguel, alert and ready. He'll lead us through the areas where Alejandro Vega has been, helping us map the cartel leader's movements, anticipate his plans. Herrera watches with appreciation. I forgot how sophisticated your unit's training was. Most people think these are just attack dogs. That's what makes them effective, Miguel responds, securing his tactical gear. The enemy underestimates them, sees only teeth and speed. They don't realize they're facing intelligent operatives who can make complex tactical decisions independently. Independent decisions? Anna asks skeptically. Miguel nods, attaching specialized communication equipment to each dog's vest. These animals understand over 300 verbal commands and hand signals. They can execute complex tactical sequences with minimal direction. In the field, they often have to make split-second decisions when separated from their handlers. Elena enters with fresh intelligence. Vasquez just confirmed Vega's planning to sabotage the main water pumps, then offer protection to desperate farmers. Classic extortion strategy. Timeline, Miguel asks. They move at nightfall. Engineering team already on site. Miguel turns to his team, now fully assembled. 5 handlers and 8 specialized dogs, each animal alertly watching its handler. Anna, status of your deputies? In position around the smaller cartel outposts. Waiting for your signal. Jason? Water monitoring systems showing eastern sector failures. Their technical team is already scrambling. Miguel does a final equipment check. Each dog wears a specialized tactical vest with communication gear, protective armor, and specialized equipment pouches. These aren't ordinary K9 units. They're the product of years of specialized training and millions in development costs. Herrera, you take the western approach with your team. Traditional entry, loud and visible. Draw their attention. And you? His old commander asks. The dogs and I are going in through the maintenance tunnels. They won't expect us to split forces. Miguel kneels beside his 3 dogs one last time, looking each in the eyes. Something passes between them. A connection deeper than words, forged through years of operations and mutual trust. Remember, he tells the assembled team, these dogs aren't just weapons or tools. They're tactical partners. They see things we don't, hear things we can't, process environmental information at a level beyond human capability. Trust them. As the sun begins to sink toward the horizon, the teams move out. The battle for Clearwater Valley's future is about to begin, and the cartel is about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating what appears to be simple farm dogs. Little do they know they're about to face the most sophisticated K9 tactical unit ever developed. The evening shadows lengthen across the valley as Miguel and his 3 dogs approach the water treatment facility from the eastern service road. They move in silence, staying low in the drainage ditches that run parallel to the main access road. Anna, status? Miguel whispers into his comm. Deputies in position. Raids commence on your signal. Herrera, western approach ready. Diversionary team standing by. Miguel signals to Vega, his Malinois. The dog moves ahead, belly low to the ground, disappearing into the tall grass. Minutes later, the dog returns to Miguel's side, communicating with subtle body language that the path is clear. Eleanor, what's the facility status? Thermal showing increased activity. They're moving equipment to the main pumping station. Looks like they're preparing for the sabotage operation. Miguel reaches a chain-link fence surrounding the facility's perimeter. With hand signals, he directs Sentinel toward the fence. The German Shepherd approaches a section partly obscured by overgrown bushes. Using its teeth, the dog pulls back. A portion of the fence that has been previously cut and concealed, a security vulnerability that Vasquez had identified in his intelligence. Jason, status of the monitoring systems? They've diverted 3 technical teams to the eastern sector. The main facility is operating with minimal oversight. Good. Anna, commence sheriff operations now. Across the valley, coordinated raids begin at the smaller cartel outposts. The tactical distraction serves its purpose. Miguel watches through his binoculars as vehicles begin to pull away from the water facility, responding to the unexpected law enforcement pressure. Herrera, begin your approach in 2 minutes. Acknowledged. Miguel turns to his dogs, giving a series of hand commands that deploy them in a tactical formation. Vega on point, Sentinel on the right flank, Kodiak covering their rear. Moving through the gap in the fence, they approach the maintenance building that will give them access to the facility's underground service tunnels. Elena, status of the main building? 12 individuals remaining. 4 at the pumping station. 3 on rooftop surveillance, 5 in the main control room. Miguel reaches the maintenance building, finding the door locked. With a subtle gesture, he sends Kodiak forward. The Dutch Shepherd examines the lock, then looks back at Miguel, communicating the obstacle. Miguel retrieves a small tool from the dog's tactical vest, a specialized lock-picking device designed to be carried by the canines themselves. 30 seconds later, they're inside. The maintenance building is dark and quiet, smelling of oil and chemicals. Miguel moves confidently toward the service tunnel entrance, the dogs maintaining perfect formation around him. Herrera, begin diversion now. Outside, they hear the commotion. As Herrera's team makes their presence known at the western gate, vehicles with flashing lights, loudspeakers, the classic signs of a law enforcement operation. The distraction pulls attention exactly where Miguel wants it. Elena, movement of hostiles, rooftop surveillance redirecting to the western approach, control room personnel splitting forces. With the facility's attention focused westward, Miguel and his dogs descend into the service tunnels. The narrow concrete passageways smell of damp and mildew, but the dogs move confidently, their specialized training allowing them to navigate in near total darkness. They move through the tunnel system using Miguel's memorized map. The dogs constantly scouting ahead, communicating information back through subtle behaviors that only a trained handler would recognize. Anna, status on the raids. Multiple suspects fleeing. Just as predicted, the hired muscle is abandoning their posts. Vasquez reports Vega is pulling forces back from outlying positions, Elena adds. He's trying to maintain control of the main operation while responding to our distractions. Miguel and his team reach the access point beneath the main pumping station. Through the grating, they can see cartel operatives positioning explosive charges on the primary water pumps, sophisticated sabotage that would cripple the valley's irrigation system for weeks. On my mark, Miguel whispers to his dogs, removing the specialized equipment from their vests, flashbang devices designed to be carried and deployed by the dogs themselves. Herrera, status? maintaining pressure at the western gate. They're focused entirely on us. Ana, cartel communications in chaos. They can't maintain coordination across multiple points. Execute now. With practiced precision, Miguel removes the grating. The three dogs move silently into position, each carrying a flashbang device in its mouth. At Miguel's hand signal, they place the devices precisely, then retreat to his position. 3, 2, 1. The coordinated flashbangs erupt simultaneously, disorienting the cartel operatives. Miguel and his dogs emerge from the service tunnel like wraiths. What happens next demonstrates why these animals were the elite of elite tactical units. Each dog targets a specific threat with surgical precision, disarming and immobilizing their assigned targets before the humans can even register what's happening. Darkness shrouds the water treatment facility as Miguel leads his team through the service tunnels. The dogs move with supernatural awareness in the pitch black, their specialized training allowing them to navigate spaces that would leave humans helpless. Vega, the Malinois, suddenly freezes, his muscles tensing in a way Miguel recognizes immediately. Hold, he whispers into his comm. The entire team stops. Miguel uses hand signals that only his dogs can sense in the darkness. Vega moves forward silently, investigating whatever triggered his alert. 30 seconds later, the dog returns, communicating through subtle body language that Miguel interprets with practiced ease. Motion sensors ahead, Miguel relays to the team. Military grade. Ramirez has upgraded their security. Can we bypass? Herrera asks through the comm. Miguel turns to Kodiak, removing a specialized device from the dog's tactical vest. Not necessary. We're going to use their security against them. The device, a signal disruptor developed specifically for their former unit, will create false positives across the facility's sensor network, overwhelming the security monitors with phantom alerts. Ana, status on the sheriff operations? Multiple. Sites engaged, their hired muscle is scattering just as predicted. Elena, what's happening at the facility? They're splitting forces, responding to the Western distraction and our sheriff operations. But Vega himself is still at the pumping station with what looks like demolition equipment. Miguel activates the disruptor, then signals his team forward. They move through the sensor field undetected, the facility's security systems now blinded by their own technology. Jason, status on water systems. I've isolated the main control network. They can set their charges, but I can prevent the actual damage to the pumping infrastructure remotely. Good. Maintain that protection. Herrera, keep their attention on the western approach. Acknowledged, they're fully committed to our position. Miguel's team reaches a junction in the service tunnels. Ahead lies the main access to the pumping station. Through the grating, they can see Vega directing his men as they position explosive devices around critical infrastructure components. I count 7 hostiles, Miguel whispers. Vega plus 6 operators. Thermal confirms, Elena responds. They're clustered around the main pumps. Miguel looks at his 3 dogs, each alertly awaiting his command. He has trained with these animals for years, developing a communication system that transcends normal handler-canine interaction. Each dog understands not just commands, but complex tactical concepts. Vega, Sentinel, Kodiak, he whispers, giving each dog a specific series of hand signals. The animals process the information, their eyes showing a level of comprehension that would astonish anyone not familiar with their specialized training. Strike in 30 seconds, Miguel informs the team. Be ready to support. The dogs move into position, each carrying specialized equipment in the pouches of their tactical vests, flashbang devices, smoke canisters, and specialized restraint tools. Ana, all units prepare for coordinated action on my mark. Ready? Herrera, increase pressure on western approach now. Outside, they hear the diversion intensify. Herrera's team making themselves an irresistible focus of attention. Elena, kill facility power on my mark. Ready. Miguel does a final check of his equipment, then looks at his dogs. Execute in 3, 2, 1, now! The facility plunges into darkness as Elena cuts the power. Simultaneously, Miguel removes the grating, and the 3 dogs launch into the pumping station like tactical missiles. What happens next demonstrates why these animals were the elite of elite tactical units. Each dog deploys its assigned devices with precision. Flashbangs temporarily blinding and disorienting the cartel operators, smoke canisters creating confusion, specialized devices disabling equipment. In the chaos, the dogs themselves become weapons, moving through the smoke with perfect awareness, targeting hostiles with surgical precision. They don't attack randomly. Each dog has been assigned specific targets through Miguel's hand signals. They immobilize rather than maul, using controlled biting techniques to neutralize threats without causing lethal damage. Miguel and his team emerge from the tunnel, taking advantage of the disorientation their canine partners have created. The cartel operators, despite their training, are completely unprepared for this kind of assault. Vega himself tries to reach for his weapon, but finds Vega the Malinois already there. Powerful jaws clamped around his wrist, with exactly enough. Pressure to immobilize without crushing bone. Don't move, Miguel orders, his weapon trained on the cartel lieutenant. Your men are down. Your operation is compromised. Through his earpiece, Miguel hears confirmations from Ana's teams, simultaneous. Strikes across the valley succeeding, cartel forces in disarray. Ramirez is on the move, Elena reports. Satellite shows his vehicle heading toward the county airfield. Let him run, Miguel responds, securing Vega with zip ties. We've got his lieutenant and his operation. He's finished, but something in Vega's expression gives Miguel pause. Despite being captured, the cartel leader looks almost satisfied. Why are you smiling? Miguel demands. Because you still don't understand, Vega replies, his accent thick but his English perfect. This was never about the water facility. That's just what Ramirez wanted you to think. What's he talking about? Ana asks through the comm. Miguel studies Vega's face, then suddenly understands. Elena, check the dairy processing plant. Now! Elena's voice comes back tense with urgency. Thermal shows a team entering the main processing facility, heavily armed, moving with tactical precision. That's the real target, Miguel realizes. Control the water, you control the farms, but control the processing and distribution, control everything. Vega finishes with a cold smile. The valley's entire dairy industry runs through that facility. Sabotage it, then offer private security and processing alternatives through Ramirez's companies. Redirect units to the processing plant immediately, Miguel orders. Herrera, take control here. My team and I are moving to the real target. There's no time, Elena responds after checking satellite imagery. They're already inside. Beginning. Placing charges. Miguel looks at his 3 dogs, still alert and ready despite the completed operation. Then we'll have to move faster. Minutes later, Miguel's vehicle speeds along county roads toward the dairy processing facility, his 3 dogs secured in their specialized compartments. They've shed unnecessary equipment, traveling light for maximum speed. Elena, facility status? Thermal. Shows 8 operatives inside, all ex-military by their movement patterns. They're placing charges at structural points. Anna, deputies responding, but they're at least 15 minutes out. State police blocked by a coincidental truck accident on the highway. Jason, can you access the facility systems? Negative. It's an isolated network. No remote access. Miguel makes a decision. Then it's just us. Miguel, that's a suicide mission, Herrera protests. 8 trained operators and just you and the dogs? Sometimes the smaller the team, the better, Miguel responds, his mind already formulating a plan. Elena, I need the facility layout, entry points, structural weaknesses. Sending to your phone now. As they approach the processing plant, Miguel can see it's already in emergency shutdown. Lights off, staff evacuated. Perfect conditions for the cartel team to work uninterrupted, planting their explosives. Parker, what assets do you have in the area? Nothing that can reach you in time, the state police lieutenant responds. You need to wait for backup. Not an option. Those charges go off, the valley's dairy industry collapses. Hundreds of families ruined overnight. Miguel parks a half-mile from the facility, concealing his vehicle in a stand of trees. He and the dogs will approach on foot, using the darkness to their advantage. Elena, I need constant thermal updates. Where are they in the building? Main processing floor and storage areas, methodically placing charges at support columns. Miguel checks his equipment one last time, then looks at his 3 dogs, their eyes reflecting the moonlight. This is going to be different, he tells them quietly. We're outnumbered. No backup, maximum autonomy protocols. The dogs seem to understand, their focus intensifying. These aren't normal working dogs. They've been trained to operate independently when necessary, making tactical decisions without handler input. If anything happens to me, Miguel says into his comm, the dogs will continue the mission. They're programmed to protect the facility at all costs. Miguel, wait for backup, Anna pleads. This is too dangerous. No time, he responds simply. Elena, kill all your active transmissions after this call. Complete communications blackout. They'll be monitoring for electronic signatures. Understood. Good luck. Miguel and the dogs begin their approach using the terrain for cover. Unlike a normal tactical team that would move in formation, they spread out. 4 separate entities approaching from different angles, multiplying their effective force. 500 yards from the facility, Miguel gives his dogs their final instructions, a complex series of hand signals that communicate the mission parameters. The animals absorb the information, processing it through their specialized training. Execute, he whispers. The 3 dogs disappear into the darkness, each moving toward a different entry point. Miguel himself approaches the loading dock, where thermal imaging showed the weakest cartel presence. Inside the processing facility, the cartel team works with practiced efficiency, placing explosive charges at key structural points. Their leader, a former military engineer named Ortiz, checks his watch. 10 more minutes until detonation. Enough time to place the remaining charges and retreat to a safe distance. Status? He asks his team through their encrypted radio system. East section complete. Storage area charges set. Main floor 50% complete. Ortiz nods, satisfied with their progress. Ramirez's plan is unfolding perfectly. By morning, the valley's only dairy processing facility will be rubble, forcing desperate farmers to accept whatever terms the colonel's companies offer. A noise from the loading dock area catches his attention. Team 3, check the east entrance. 2 of his men move to investigate, weapons ready. They find nothing and are about to report back when a dark shape lunges from beneath a conveyor belt. Before the first operator can react, powerful jaws clamp around his gun arm, the precisely calibrated bite pressure rendering the limb useless without severing arteries. The second operator raises his weapon, only to be hit from behind by another shape. Sentinel, the German Shepherd, executing a perfectly timed flanking maneuver. "Contact east entrance," the operator manages to shout into his radio before being dragged to the ground, his weapon skittering across the floor. Ortiz immediately recognizes they're under attack. Defensive positions, motion sensors active. His remaining men abandon their work, moving into tactical formation. They're trained operators, not easily panicked, even by the unexpected. "Night vision on," Ortiz orders, flipping down his own. Goggles through the green-tinted vision. They scan the facility interior, looking for the intruders. Nothing moves in their field of view. "I count 2 attackers down," Ortiz notes, watching his fallen men struggle against dogs. His confusion lasts only a moment before tactical understanding kicks in. "K9 units, watch the floor level." The warning comes too late. Kodiak, the Dutch shepherd, emerges from the shadows, moving with uncanny silence despite his size. Before Ortiz's third man can target the dog, Kodiak launches himself at the operator's chest, the impact sending both tumbling across the processing floor. These aren't normal police dogs, Ortiz realizes, watching the animal's tactical movement. "Shoot to kill." His remaining men open fire, but they're shooting at shadows. The dogs have already disappeared, melting back into the darkness of the facility. "Where's their handler?" Ortiz demands, scanning for human targets. "Find him." At that moment, the facility's emergency lights suddenly activate, flooding the space with harsh, disorienting brightness. The cartel operators, adjusted to night vision, are momentarily blinded. Miguel uses that moment to make his move, advancing from his hidden position behind processing equipment. But he's not moving toward the cartel team. He's targeting the explosives they've already placed, disarming them with practiced efficiency. "The charges!" Ortiz shouts, regaining his vision. "Protect the charges!" His men turn, firing in Miguel's direction, forcing him into cover. But the distraction has served its purpose. The dogs are on the move again, this time in perfect coordination. What follows demonstrates why Miguel's unit was the elite of elite tactical teams. The 3 dogs execute a synchronized attack from multiple angles, creating the impression of a much larger force. They don't just bite and hold, they implement complex tactical maneuvers, flanking, disarming and neutralizing with precision that few human operators could match. Ortiz watches, in disbelief, as his team is systematically taken down by 3 animals working in perfect coordination. His final 2 men are cornered near the main processing equipment, firing desperately at shadows that move with uncanny intelligence. "Fall back to the exit," Ortiz orders. "Detonate what charges we have." He reaches for the detonator only to feel something clamp around his wrist, Vega, the Malinois, seeming to materialize from nowhere. The dog's bite is precisely calibrated, enough pressure to immobilize, not enough to sever arteries. Ortiz struggles, but the animal adjusts its grip with almost mechanical precision. He tries to reach for his sidearm with his free hand, but freezes when he feels the cold press of a gun barrel against his neck. "I wouldn't," Miguel advises quietly. "1 handler and 3 dogs," Ortiz says through gritted teeth. "Impossible." "Not impossible," Miguel corrects, disarming the cartel leader. Just highly improbable. For the record, these aren't ordinary K9s. They're from Proyecto Sentinel. Recognition flashes in Ortiz's eyes. The ghost unit, they were disbanded years ago. Officially, yes, Miguel confirms, securing the detonator. Unofficially, well, you just met them. Outside, sirens announce the arrival of Anna's deputies and state police units. The facility is secured, the charges disarmed, the cartel team neutralized. What seemed like an overwhelming force was defeated by a single handler and 3 extraordinary. Dogs, Miguel, status? Anna's voice comes through the radio, tension evident. Facility secured, explosives neutralized, 8 tangos in custody. Any casualties? Miguel looks at his 3 dogs, now sitting calmly in perfect formation, despite the chaos of the past minutes. Not a scratch on them. Negative. The team performed perfectly. As law enforcement secures the scene, Miguel kneels beside his dogs, checking each one personally, rewarding them with the subtle touches that mean more to them than treats or verbal praise. These animals aren't pets or tools, they're tactical partners who just saved the valley's agricultural future. I've never seen anything like this, Parker admits, surveying the scene. 8 armed operators taken down by 3 dogs. Not just any dogs, Miguel corrects. The result of the most advanced canine tactical program ever developed. Elena's voice comes through the comm system. Miguel, we've got a new problem. Ramirez's plane just took off from the county airfield. He's escaping. Let him, Miguel responds. We've dismantled his operation, exposed his plan. He's finished in this valley. But Ana looks troubled as she approaches. It's not that simple. Vasquez just sent new intelligence. Ramirez isn't running away. He's meeting with cartel leadership across the border, requesting reinforcements. This isn't over, Herrera confirms, joining them. It's about to escalate. Miguel looks at his 3 dogs, still alert despite the completed mission. He knows what's coming. A cartel doesn't retreat when challenged. It doubles down. The night's success has prevented immediate disaster, but the real war for Clearwater Valley is just beginning. Then we'll be ready, he says simply. The next morning dawns clear and bright over Clearwater Valley. At the county sheriff's office, a command center has been established to coordinate response to the cartel threat. Maps cover the walls, showing property boundaries, water rights, and strategic positions throughout the region. Latest intel puts Ramirez in Juarez, Elena reports, pulling up satellite imagery. Meeting with Sinaloa leadership. Our success last night has forced him to show his hand publicly. What about Vega? Miguel asks. Singing like a canary, Ana replies. Your dogs made quite an impression on him. He's giving up everything. Names, locations, financial connections. And the water facility? The processing plant? Secure, Parker confirms. State police has established perimeters. National Guard units are mobilizing as we speak. Miguel nods, but his expression remains troubled. He knows cartel operations. Their response to last night's failure won't be retreat, but escalation. We've prevented the immediate threat, he acknowledges. But Ramirez won't abandon his plan so easily. Too much money and power at stake. What's his most likely play? Herrera asks, the old tactician thinking ahead. Miguel studies the map, thinking like his former adversary. He'll bypass the infrastructure targets now that we're protecting them. Go directly after the farms themselves. Intimidation campaign, Ana suggests. More than intimidation, Miguel corrects. Actual violence. Make examples of those who resist. Standard cartel escalation protocol. Sarah enters the command center, bringing fresh intelligence. Hospital reports 3 farmers admitted overnight, severely beaten. Warnings to others. It's starting, Miguel confirms grimly. We can't protect every farm in the valley, Parker points out. Not enough manpower. We don't need to, Miguel responds, an idea forming. We just need to make them think twice about which farms to target. Elena looks up from her computer. What are you thinking? The cartels operate on risk assessment. Like any other organization, increase the risk, they'll seek easier targets. You want to use the dogs, Herrera realizes. Deploy them across the valley. Miguel nods. Not just my 3. All the specialized K9 units from our former team. Strategic deployment at key farms, creating a defensive network. Will it work? Una asks. 8 dogs and 6 handlers against a cartel force? It's not about winning a direct confrontation, Miguel explains. It's about changing their risk calculation. Make them believe there are specialized tactical units at every property. Herrera smiles slowly, understanding the strategy. Psychological warfare. Their intelligence will report elite K9 units throughout the valley. They won't know which reports are accurate and which are ghost sightings. Exactly, Miguel confirms. And Ramirez knows what these dogs are capable of. It will force him to commit more resources than he can afford, spread his forces thin. Meanwhile, Anna adds, seeing the plan take shape, we use the time to build a more permanent solution. Get federal involvement, expose Ramirez's operation. Publicly, it could work, Parker admits, but it's a stopgap at best. Sometimes a stopgap is all you need, Miguel responds. Just enough time for the system to respond properly. The meeting continues, developing the strategy for deploying their limited resources across the valley. Miguel's specialized K9 units will become the cornerstone of a defensive network designed to disrupt cartel operations through uncertainty and psychological impact. What about the dairy farm itself? Sarah asks. Clearwater will remain their primary target, symbol of resistance. My 3 dogs and I stay there, Miguel confirms. It's what Ramirez will expect and what we want him to expect. You're using yourself as bait, Anna realizes, concern evident in her voice. Strategic positioning, Miguel corrects. Ramirez needs a victory to maintain credibility with the cartel leadership. We give him an obvious target. Prepare accordingly. As the meeting concludes, teams deploy throughout the valley. The specialized K9 units, 8 dogs with exceptional tactical training, are positioned at strategic locations, creating the impression of a valley-wide defensive network. It's not enough to win a war, but it might buy them the time they need. Miguel returns to Clearwater Dairy with his 3 dogs, preparing the farm for what he knows is coming. The main barn has been transformed into a command center with security systems, communication equipment, and tactical gear positioned throughout the property. Sarah approaches as he completes a perimeter check. The milk processing resumes tomorrow. We can't afford to stay shut down any longer. Understood. We'll maintain security protocols during operations. Miguel, she hesitates. The staff is scared. Some are talking about leaving. That's their choice, he responds. I won't hold anyone here against their will. But without full staffing, we can't maintain production. The farm will fail anyway, just slower than if the cartel took over. Miguel considers this, then calls his 3 dogs to his side. Vega, Sentinel, and Kodiak respond immediately, forming a perfect line before him. Tell everyone there's a mandatory meeting tonight, 7 o'clock in the main barn. At 7, Clearwater's employees gather in the barn. Dairy workers, field, hands, administrative staff. About half the normal workforce has reported, the others too frightened to return after yesterday's events. Miguel stands before them, his 3 dogs sitting perfectly positioned at his side. The animals' discipline bearing is striking. Unlike normal farm dogs, they maintain complete focus, perfect posture, attentive to every movement in the room. I know you're scared, Miguel begins without preamble. You have every right to be. The Sinaloa Cartel is one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the world. They've threatened this farm, this valley, and each of you personally. The room is silent, tension palpable. I won't lie to you. The threat is real. Anyone who wants to leave can do so without judgment. I'll provide references, help you find work elsewhere. He pauses, letting this sink in. Several people exchange glances considering the offer, but before you decide, there's something you should know. Miguel turns to his dogs, giving a subtle hand signal. Immediately, the animals transform, their posture shifting from calm attentiveness to alert readiness. The change is dramatic, like watching domestic pets become predators in an instant. These aren't ordinary farm dogs, Miguel continues. They're the product of Proyecto Sentinel, the most advanced tactical canine program ever developed. Each has capabilities equivalent to a specialized military unit. To demonstrate, Miguel performs a series of tests, having the dogs identify hidden objects by scent, execute complex tactical maneuvers, and respond to nearly invisible hand signals. The display is impressive, bordering on unbelievable. Last night, these 3 dogs neutralized 8 heavily armed cartel operators at the processing plant, without a single casualty. He lets this information settle across the room. The employees look at the dogs with new understanding, some with disbelief, others with dawning hope. Clearwater Farm is not defenseless, and neither is this valley. As we speak, similar canine units are deploying throughout the region, creating a security network. The cartel wasn't prepared for, but we need your help. Each of you has skills this farm depends on. Without you, Clearwater fails, regardless of cartel action. Sarah steps forward. I'm staying. This farm isn't just a business. It's our community, our future. Others begin to nod, courage building through shared resolve. The cartel wants you afraid, Miguel concludes. Fear is their weapon, but we have something more powerful. Community, and some very special protectors. As if understanding their role in this moment, the 3 dogs sit taller, their bearing projecting absolute confidence. By meeting's end, nearly everyone has committed to stay. The farm will continue operations, defying cartel intimidation. It's not just about milk production anymore. It's become a symbol of resistance for the entire valley. That night, as Miguel completes a final security check, Ana arrives with fresh intelligence. Satellite shows increased activity across the border. She reports, vehicles gathering, Ramirez is mobilizing. Timeline, 24 to 48 hours. Parker has requested additional state police resources, but bureaucracy is slowing the response. Miguel nods, having expected this. And our canine deployments? Creating exactly the effect you predicted. 3 cartel reconnaissance teams have already retreated after spotting the dogs. The psychological impact is working for now. It won't last, Miguel acknowledges. Ramirez will adapt, bring in specialists familiar with tactical K9 operations. Then what's our next move? Miguel looks out across the farm, now transformed into a defensive position. His 3 dogs maintain their patrol patterns, tireless and vigilant. We prepare for what's coming. And we show Ramirez why Proyecto Sentinel was the most feared special operations unit he ever encountered. As darkness settles over Clearwater Valley, the specialized dogs continue their silent vigil. A storm is coming, a cartel response that will test the limits of what these extraordinary animals and their handlers can accomplish. But for tonight, the farms are secure, the dairy operations continuing in defiance of those who would control them through fear. The first battle has been won. The war for Clearwater Valley is just beginning. The morning sun rises over Clearwater Valley, illuminating a transformed landscape. What was once a peaceful agricultural community has become the front line in a battle against organized crime. At the center of it all stands Miguel Reyes and his 3 extraordinary dogs, symbols of resistance against a cartel's attempt to seize control. 2 days after the dairy processing plant operation, Miguel surveys Clearwater Farm from the main barn roof. The property has been reinforced, security systems upgraded, defensive positions established, staff trained in basic protocols. His dogs patrol the perimeter, their disciplined movements a stark contrast to the typical farm environment. Satellite confirms Ramirez has crossed back into Mexico, Elena reports, joining him on the rooftop observation point. But he's not retreating. Intelligence shows him gathering reinforcements, specialized anti-K9 units, military-grade equipment. Timeline? Miguel asks, watching Vega move across the eastern pasture with mechanical precision. 48 hours, maybe less. Parker's request for National Guard support is still pending approval. Bureaucracy at its finest. Miguel nods, having expected this. The system always moves slower than the threat. And the other farms? Your strategy is working. The deployed K9 units have created exactly the psychological effect you predicted. 3 attempted cartel incursions repelled without casualties. They're hesitating, uncertain which properties are protected. It won't last, Miguel acknowledges. Ramirez is adaptive. He'll develop countermeasures. Then what's our play? Miguel turns to her, his expression resolute. We change the narrative. Make this about more than just farms and water rights. By nightfall, an emergency community meeting convenes at the county fairgrounds. Hundreds of local residents attend. Farmers, business owners, ordinary citizens concerned about the cartel's growing influence. The mood is tense, fearful, but tinged with determination. Miguel stands before them, his 3 dogs sitting perfectly positioned at his side. Their disciplined presence commands attention, projecting a calm confidence that spreads through the room. What we're facing isn't just a criminal threat to a few farms, Miguel begins. It's an attempt to control everything that matters in this valley. Our water, our food production, our economy, our future. He outlines Ramirez's strategy, using cartel muscle to establish infrastructure control, creating dependency through strategic sabotage, installing private security that answers only to him. This isn't just happening here. Communities across the border regions face the same pattern. Most fold under pressure, watching their resources and independence quietly slip away. The crowd listens intently as Miguel continues. But we have something those other communities didn't. He gestures to his dogs, specialized tactical resources that have temporarily disrupted their timeline. More importantly, we have each other, a community that refuses to surrender to intimidation. He proposes a valley-wide cooperation network. Shared security protocols, communication systems, coordinated responses to threats. Not vigilantism, but organized community resistance working alongside legitimate law enforcement. If we stand isolated, we fall one by one. If we stand together, we become stronger than any cartel operation. The plan takes shape over the next 24 hours. Elena establishes a central communications hub at the sheriff's department. The specialized K9 units are strategically redeployed to create maximum psychological impact. Community volunteers organize into observation teams, creating a valley-wide early warning system. Media attention begins to focus on Clearwater Valley. Not just local outlets, but national news organizations drawn to the story of a community fighting back against cartel encroachment. The spotlight brings unwelcome exposure to Ramirez's operation, forcing him to delay his planned offensive. He's adapting again, Ana reports, reviewing satellite intelligence, switching to smaller teams, covert operations, trying to break our communication network, isolate targets. Exactly as expected, Miguel responds, which means Phase 2 begins now. Phase 2 deploys the community's greatest strength, its interconnectedness. When cartel operatives target a small dairy farm on the eastern edge of the valley, they find not just the specialized K9 unit stationed there, but dozens of community members arriving within minutes, surrounding the property, documenting everything with phones and cameras. The cartel team retreats, unwilling to commit violence under such observation. The pattern repeats across the valley, each attempted intimidation met with overwhelming community presence, creating an environment where the cartel cannot operate. Effectively, Ramirez is furious, Vasquez reports through secure channels. He's losing credibility with Sinaloa leadership. They're questioning his strategy, demanding results. Which makes him desperate, Miguel notes grimly, and more dangerous. That danger materializes 3 days later. Intelligence indicates Ramirez himself has returned to American soil, bringing specialized teams trained specifically to counter tactical K9 units. Their target, Clearwater Farm, the symbol of resistance. This is it, Miguel tells his assembled team at the command center. He's coming for us directly. Everything we've planned for. The defenders prepare accordingly. Community observation networks are activated. Law enforcement positions reinforced. The specialized K9 units concentrate at strategic points throughout the property. As darkness falls, thermal imaging detects multiple teams approaching Clearwater Farm from different directions. Professional operators moving with tactical precision, equipped with specialized gear, including anti-K9 equipment designed to neutralize Miguel's greatest advantage. They're better prepared this time, Herrera observes from the command center. Countermeasures for everything we've done before. Good, Miguel responds calmly, checking his equipment. That's exactly what we wanted. The cartel teams advance toward what they believe is a heavily defended position. Their intelligence shows concentrated security at the main barn, processing facilities and farmhouse, the obvious critical points. What they don't realize is that Miguel has completely abandoned conventional defense tactics. The farm appears protected, but it's largely an illusion. Automated systems, lighting timers, and carefully positioned decoys creating the impression of a fortified position. The real defense is something entirely different. As the cartel teams converge on the seemingly protected buildings, Miguel and his dogs are already behind them, having circled through irrigation canals to approach from unexpected angles. Other specialized K9 units move through the darkness, executing a complex flanking maneuver that Ramirez could never have anticipated. The cartel operators, focused on countering the defensive measures they expected, suddenly find themselves surrounded by the very assets they thought they had neutralized. The specialized dogs strike from multiple directions simultaneously, implementing attack protocols specifically designed for this operation. At the center of it all, Miguel tracks a specific target, Ramirez himself, directing operations from what he believes is a secure position at the edge of the property. The colonel realizes too late that his carefully planned operation has been compromised. As his teams report contact from unexpected directions, thermal imaging reveals the true nature of Miguel's strategy. The buildings they thought were defended were largely empty, the real tactical assets deployed in a completely unexpected pattern. Pull back, Ramirez orders, recognizing the trap. Regroup at extraction point Alpha, but the extraction point has already been compromised. State police units, finally mobilized through Parker's persistent efforts, have established positions around the property perimeter. The cartel teams find their retreat blocked, their communications jammed, their tactical advantages neutralized. At Ramirez's position, a subtle sound in the darkness causes him to turn, weapon raised. He finds himself facing Vega, the Belgian. Malinois, positioned just 10 feet away. The dog makes no aggressive move, simply sits, watching, incredibly disciplined. Clever Reyes, Ramirez calls into the darkness, using the dog as a distraction while you maneuver into position. Not a distraction, Miguel's voice responds from behind him. A partner. Ramirez turns slowly, finding Miguel's weapon trained on him. It's over, Colonel. Your teams are surrounded, your operation exposed, your cartel backers abandoning you as we speak. You think it's that simple? Ramirez laughs bitterly. Cut off one head, 2 more take its place. The cartels will send someone else. The strategy remains the same. Control the infrastructure, control everything. Perhaps, Miguel acknowledges, but they'll think twice about targeting this valley again. We've shown them something they didn't expect. A few specialized dogs. They'll adapt to that. Not the dogs, Miguel corrects. Community, solidarity, people who refuse to be controlled through fear. As dawn breaks over Clearwater Valley, state police units complete the operation, taking Ramirez and his teams into custody. Federal agencies arrive, the case now elevated to national security importance. The evidence collected through Vasquez's intelligence work and the operation itself provides everything needed to dismantle Ramirez's entire network. 1 week later, Miguel stands in the main pasture of Clearwater Farm, watching the morning milking operation proceed normally. His 3 dogs sit beside him, alert but relaxed. The immediate threat has passed, but he knows better than to believe it's permanently resolved. What's next? Anna asks, joining him as the sun climbs higher. We maintain vigilance, Miguel responds simply. The networks we've built, the community cooperation, the security protocols, they all stay in place. And the dogs? Miguel looks down at his 3 extraordinary partners, Vega, Sentinel, and Kodiak. Animals with capabilities few would believe possible, who played a crucial role in saving not just a farm, but an entire community's independence. They continue their mission, he says quietly. Guardians of more than just a dairy farm, protectors of a way of life. Across Clearwater Valley, the specialized K9 units remain deployed, a constant reminder that this community stands ready to defend itself. More importantly, the cooperation networks established during the crisis continue to function. Neighbors watching out for neighbors, a community unified against any who would seek to control them through intimidation. The cartel's attempt to harass a dairy farm revealed something they never expected to find. Not just extraordinarily trained dogs, but the extraordinary resilience of ordinary people standing together against fear. This remarkable story of how guard dogs with specialized military training helped save a community from cartel takeover reminds us that sometimes our greatest protectors come in unexpected forms. If you found this story inspiring, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. We bring you these incredible true stories of courage and resilience every week. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest videos, and share this story with others who might find strength in it. Your support helps us continue to highlight these remarkable tales of ordinary heroes facing extraordinary challenges. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.